Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Vitale.
Excused.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
Chaplesky.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Lasik.
Here.
May.
Excused.
Probst. Here. 8 present, 2 excused.
We have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll be led this evening by Alderperson Reinke. Moving on to item D on our agendas, we have one item up for public hearing. I will ask our clerk to read item 1.
A hearing on the special use permit for Rogers Memorial Hospital to construct a proposed addition to their current facility located at 11101 West Lincoln Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The public hearing tonight is to explore the potential of approving an addition to a behavioral health clinic on Lincoln Avenue. It's going to be adding about 2,700 square feet, primarily for the youth, trying to segregate the different populations. The zoning of the property is M1, which allows for a hospital as a special use, and that's the purpose of the hearing tonight. The facility is open 24 hours a day. Parking is becoming more and more of a problem as the building expands and becomes more successful, and I'll be talking more about that in just a moment. The proposal on the east side is to add a 2,700 square foot facility that it has an addition of about 4 beds and some additional offices and day rooms, or whatever you want to call it. The architecture of the building will be very similar to what the current building is, and will be as noted in this area here, which is right about here in the building scale. They're not going to be adding any more staff, but they will be adding beds for additional 4 more patients, which does not add tremendously to the parking load. However, the area is becoming more and more parking challenged. I know that their long-range plan is to add an addition to it, and we've already begun talking to the owners of the property to say, you're going to have to deal more aggressively with adding more parking to be able to accommodate that, whether it's to the west with Lincoln Medical Clinic, obtain some of their parking, some of the parking from the manufacturing across the street on the east side, or any other area that they can get, but they're going to have to deal with additional parking. As I noted, the property is zoned M1, and the Plan Commission has recommended approval, subject that within 1 year they apply and receive a rezoning to a C3. If the Common Council has any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any comments or questions from the members of the Common Council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the members of the audience? Okay, seeing none, we will close our public hearing, and we will move on to item E on our agendas, which is citizen participation. This is an opportunity for residents to address the council on any matters of interest to them. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we make every effort to keep this portion of our agenda to 30 minutes. Is there anybody here this evening that wishes to address the Common Council under citizen participation? Please come up to the podium and give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Rick Sobek. I live at 8027 West Lincoln Avenue. Got something prepared so I don't ramble extemporaneously. I'm here today to express my frustration with the chain of events surrounding a business opening next door to my residence in a building that has been a multi-tenant rental since I moved here in 1992, specifically a palm reading and tarot card reading establishment. Having worked with another small business owner, I was aware of West Allis's stringent signage requirements and thought that an occupancy permit would have been required. So when they initially placed signage in the window, I searched the city website for any occupancy permits having been granted. Seeing none, I initially inquired to the building inspector. I called out the bright neon 4 by 4 foot sign in one window, as well as a 1.5 by 3 foot sign in the other open sign in the other window, citing the municipal code for residential businesses, which limits a 1 by 2 foot, or 2 square foot non-illuminated sign. City Building Inspector Terry Tauschman advised me on May 10th that the landlord had been given a 10-day notice to remove the signage. To make a long story short, after also contacting Alderperson Probst, who can speak to my frustrations during those first few months, the delays caused by the administrative rules allowed this business to operate with illegal signage until last week, after a court date, when they finally turned the sign off. The open sign had not been turned on for a while, but the other sign had continued to be on. When I reached out to them during the ensuing months, the building inspector and Nick from the city attorney's office advised me of the steps being taken. Although I disagree with the concept of working with a tenant on an occupancy permit and only moving forward to other actions when they continued with the signage violation and didn't respond to the city planner. It should be noted that the signage remains in place in the window today. Even though it is not illuminated, it's still in violation of municipal code. It's interesting to note that an existing yard sign, which had a sign that had evidently been grandfathered, which only had a name and an address, had a custom modification, so they were apparently required to remove that. But the illuminated signs continued to be there, and they continued to operate their business. My concern is that while the city building inspector's office allowed the occupancy to start work with the city planner for an occupancy permit, the signage was never in compliance and should have been removed. I failed to understand why the city attorney had to go through a process which lasted 7 months in order to get a court date that finally forced a change. I've not yet been advised if there were actually any fines levied or any real consequences for their violations. There are other concerns about city services and whether they were selling cars in there, but my frustration with the inability for the city to do anything about something that was clearly in violation of the municipal code, but was allowed to continue, knowing full well that even an occupancy permit had been issued, the signage was not code compliant for that type of business. I understand that there's been a heightened awareness of the issue recently, and the December 14th court date may have taken some action. But I urge the council to consider enacting change to city ordinances which allows more expedient actions to remediate clear violations. I don't believe that violators should be rewarded with extensions of time or to continue their operations for 7 months. I shudder to think if there were other families that were under the circumstances which had that type of business or other businesses that they had to answer questions to their children about. The bottom line is, I ask the city council to take a look at what that code says and why a business should be able to operate illegally for that period of time without any consequence. And even though there are consequences, I don't know what they are. Anyway, I thank you for your time and consideration of my concerns. Have a blessed and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You too. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close citizen participation. We will move on to item F on our agendas, which is the announcements of our standing committees during recess. The room numbers for these meetings are listed on the agendas on page 1. We will move to item G, the mayor's report. I want to briefly take a moment from myself and to the Common Council to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a very Merry holiday season. And I also want to remind everybody that on New Year's Eve at West Allis Central, the Community Alliance Against Drugs is going to be having their family night. I believe it starts at 6 or 6:30. Alderman Rote and I will be volunteering once again. And we become experts on putting wristbands on very thin, small, young kids' wrists. It's a really great family event. They have the gym open, they have food in the cafeteria, they have a DJ, they show movies in the auditorium. You can join this organization for $20 for the year, so you can be covered for all of 2017, and they do movies and events over the course of the summer. They do events in the fall. It's pretty good bang for your buck. There is information on the city's website, and again, it's on New Year's Eve at West Allis Central from about 6:30 till 10 or 11. That does conclude my report this evening. We will move to item H, reports from the alderpersons.
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Probst.
Earlier last week, a family in the 1400 block of South 72nd Street in both mine and Alderman Weigel's districts suffered a catastrophic fire. While we were very fortunate that there was no loss of life, unfortunately the family has lost everything. and especially at this time of the year, that's an additional kick in the butt. So we've got a few community members that have stepped up, and I wanted to give a little shout out as well as give some numbers of individuals who are still willing to collect items in order to benefit the family. First, the name of the family is the Carter Smith family, and Suzette Grisham from Suzette's Hair for You and the West Dallas Firefighters Charities have both stepped up and have collected as many items. Actually, they donated them last evening to the family. They're still in great need. So anyone that is still interested can contact Deputy Chief Mason Pooler of the West Dallas Fire Department at 302-8904, or you can contact me, Alderperson Kathy Probst. You can find me on Facebook, or you can get a hold of me through City Hall here. So thank you very much to everybody that's reached out. And last but not least, a great big giant shout out to the Hampton Inn and Suites, who has provided free of charge room for these people to stay. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Ranky?
just a report on the community project, the Veterans Giving Tree. It was so successful, very successful. And I have you people and all the people in the community that donated either gifts for them or money for them. I can't tell you how appreciated they are of all the feelings of the community for their service. The committee wrapped the gifts on Friday, and this was an endeavor by the Celebrations Committee. I'd like to commend my people that showed up to wrap. Paul Bodshaw, Randy Casa, Pat Hadlack, Brenda Schmidt, Marge Madoc, and super wrapper Mr. Koenig. They did a fantastic job. Mr. Koenig is a super wrapper, like I say, and he every package had a bow on, so they were just beautiful. And we delivered them on Sunday, and that busy, snowy, cold day. 3 of the gentlemen on my committee sacrificed not watching the Packer game, and that was a big sacrifice for them. They helped deliver the gifts to the VA hospital. Mark Ellington, Randy Casa, and Tim Meyer. I am so thankful for these committee members that worked so hard for this project. It was, like I say, very successful, and I have all of you to thank for cheering the veterans. They'll receive the gifts on Christmas Eve, and I'm sure they'll be very, very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget to pat yourself on the back, because you made this all happen too.
Thank you.
Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick?
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of December 6th, 2016.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Ranky. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item J, items not referred to committee. I'll ask for a motion to place item 3 on file and refer items 4, 5, and 6 to the city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Barzak, second by Alderperson Probst. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item K of standing committee reports, we have none.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There is a motion with a second by Alderman Barzak. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in recess.